Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Superintendent's Update, our chance to talk with Superintendent of Schools Dr. Conti. Eric, thanks for coming down. I know it's a Friday evening and you probably want to get home, but thanks for taking the time.
I'm forgetting what day it is and what time it is, so if you hadn't told me, I wouldn't have known, so that's all right.
Just obviously the topic du jour today is going to be the reopening. We're 2 days into, I think, what you call the soft reopening, because it's not all the students yet, but we've had the freshmen here at the high school the last couple of days. Elementary school students have been in. How have things been going?
I think things have been going very well. I've been very happy with the level of detail of planning at the building levels. Again, we're so fortunate to have such strong building leadership in our principals, and they've just done a great job preparing for the opening. Again, all of our teachers were incredibly well prepared, and honestly, I feel like I'm jumping in front of a train that's already moving well down the tracks. We have such talented people. Again, even the central office staff has done just a great job preparing. We had a very busy summer, but I think it paid off. Not that it was flawless. We had some glitches. I think we're still working through our transportation kinks. I think there's still some ongoing work, and I apologize, Rich.
No problem.
So that's not a good thing. Anyway, so I think the opening went smoothly. We had all of our elementary students in grades 1 through 5, and we did spend some time this week getting our sixth graders introduced to the middle school, because they hadn't been in the school before,
Right.
and getting our ninth graders introduced to the high school, and because they hadn't been in before. So those transition years were really important. So we felt the 2 days were critical for those two grades.
And talk about some of the measures that are in place. I know I've been walking around, the high school, and I keep finding myself going opposite of arrows and having to turn around a little bit. So I know that there's a flow that's going on, but there's also some other things in place.
Well, I'm happy you didn't get a detention, but I think that some of the film work you did with Mr. Sullivan and Ms. Deacon, I think showed a lot of that. So the term that they were using in our planning is called de-densifying hallways and allowing for enough space for there to be social distancing, which is sort of one of the three legs of our pillars of safety. Mask wearing is one of them, distancing is one of them, and hand washing is one of them. So I think there's no one silver bullet. It's really looking at all three of those pieces, all together, and really trying to do the best we can with all three.
And just one of the things that so obviously, like I said, you mentioned the piece that I did, we showed a classroom and all the chairs are, 6 feet apart. Same thing with the cafeteria. There is that sort of, the flow, but it still seems, as the students are kind of walking, it's hard, it's impossible to keep that 6 feet, I think, in the hallway. Is there any sort of change of procedure that's happening, or is it just the idea that it's only going to be for a couple minutes?
I mean, I guess that's part of it. I think the mask wearing is the most important. Mm-hmm. I don't think we're going to have the kids walk around with 6-foot hula hoops. I think that would be impractical.
Yeah.
And it's behaviors that aren't really normal or natural for kids. They sort of all gravitate towards one another. And then even at the elementary school, when I was there on Thursday and Friday, most of the time they're encouraging student lines to be compact and stay in line and sort of move together. And so it's just learning new habits where now the students need to be spread apart. And again, I think the students will adjust. I think the teachers are doing a great job. And the same thing with high school students is we have to, I believe, encourage them and incorporate them into the safety protocols we have. It's their community as well, and the more safety precautions that they actually live every day, the more likely it is that the school will stay open longer. And I think clearly students want to be in school and with their friends and with their teachers. So I think if anything, that was evident on Thursday and Friday.
Yeah, I talked to a couple of them. They were excited to be back, or to be here for the first time. You did mention real quickly the transportation issue. Just want to give a sort of the big overview of sort of what had to be done.
big overview is it was a step down from what we normally do. So I think in Burlington, offering a seat to every kid was actually a more difficult context to reduce service from. So I think everyone was feeling the loss, and I think what we had to do was, first of all, try to get demand, who was requesting transportation, and I think that data was changing up until very late, and then recreating routes and looking at the restrictions on the bus capacity, and then trying to figure out the maximum number of students that we could transport given the number of buses we have. So I think that was the puzzle, and I think we still need to work through it. So some of our data needs to be scrubbed. There might have been students who are fully remote who we had in our data as needing a bus seat, and if we move those kids off, then we can move additional kids in. So I think that's what we're looking to try to do, and try to minimize the amount of distance. So, students over a certain distance, we're trying to make sure that we provide transportation for. And so it's one big puzzle, and the trouble is not everyone's going to be satisfied with the solution because we don't have enough room to transport everyone as we typically do.
Yes, definitely. A lot of moving parts. So I know that students have been coming in, picking up tablets for the remote days, or the students who are going to be full remote. How's everything going as far as getting set up for remote teaching for when it needs to happen?
Again, I think a lot of our focus, or some of our focus, maybe not a lot of it, some of our focus over the professional development days that happened prior to the start of school was on some remote teaching. So I think our teachers have been preparing to teach remotely. And I think our challenge has been to try to get devices and other materials into students' hands as quickly as possible. And there's been some delays just with shipping. A lot of our technology is shipped from China, and so we're waiting on iPad cases, for instance, and we're not waiting to distribute the devices. But I think there have been some delays. And then in terms of our distribution of technology, it's probably a threefold increase to what we normally do. So I'm saying we're trying to do that with the same number of staff. So we're again, I think we've made great progress, but we're still sort of tracking down individual devices to make sure every child has a device so that they can be prepared to remotely connect. And so we're hoping by early next week we'll have all the remote students with their device and ready to connect, and then we'll hopefully, by the end of next week, have all students ready to go.
Very good. And I did mention it's Friday, and I know you have some well-deserved rest coming, so I'll wrap it up with this question. But just looking ahead to the next couple of weeks, maybe a month, what are some of the big things you're going to be watching out for?
How we respond. So we always say we want to respond, not react. So we need to respond. I think one of the things I'm looking forward to in terms of our planning is we need to go through some scenarios with each school, with the Board of Health. So almost like a fire drill. So we'll go through some drills to what happens when we have one student who we believe is COVID positive. How are we going to respond to that? What's going to happen? I think that we needed to get students back in the schools just for people to feel comfortable with being back in the schools. I think we need to work through a couple scenarios where we have some folks who are identified as COVID positive, how we're going to work through that. I think the key is not to panic and to work closely with the Board of Health and to make sure we're, responding in a way that's safe for everybody, and continue to remind the community to practice safety when not in school, because the virus doesn't know when it's a school time and when it's not. And I think the lower the numbers are in the community, the more likely it is that school can stay open. So I think we just all need to continue to practice, again, our mask wearing, our hand washing, and our social distancing when we're doing things personally and privately, or when families are doing things outside of school as well. So I think that's the key to this. And then again, not to overreact, and to make sure that we're listening to science and doing everything we can possibly to practice precautions as a school community and as a larger community. And I think, Rich, that's what we'll continue to do every day. Every day's a win. So, I said a great first day of school is sending every kid home to the right house safely. and we accomplished that. So I think that was a win on Thursday, a win on Friday. And we're really taking this a day at a time, and any day that we can have in-person learning and high-quality remote learning is a win for us.
Yeah, very good. And we look forward to seeing how it all kind of goes. We're going to be doing a lot more coverage as the weeks go on. So I want to once again thank you for coming in and wish you the best of luck with all of this, because I know it's difficult and challenging, but very important. So.
And I apologize. I'll have my phone on silent from now on. It's just I have a lot of calls coming in, so that was my fault. So I apologize.
You're in high demand. There's no worries. So thank you again.
All right. Take care.
You too.